Okay, so the racism in the United States, and I think it has existed since the colonial era, and when the white Americans were granted legal or social privileges and rights. So while other races and ethnic minorities were deprived of the same rights. Mm, Here's an article called "Why? What is Racism?" And it says racism is a systematized form of oppression by one race against another, and predicable attitudes exist between races for thousands of years, but systemized racial oppression first arose in the 16th. Before this, slaves in various cultures were taken without racism as the basis, and slaves were usually taken as a result of military conquest. But when Europe traders found that their superior technology uh, in selling ships and firearms, giving them a tremendous advantage in Africa, and they began plundering Africa's wealth and taking slaves. And this quote is by the article is called "Racism." What is racism? And I think this basically explains what is racism and how it started and how it began. So the article mentioned that the Atlantic slavery trade. So I think it is the start of the racism and slave using, and also it has an economic space. So among the European allies, who created the nation and who made all the rules, they want more land and they want more population in their nation. So, and in order to gain more land and population, they need to have a military power. They have to have very strong military powers. And so, the important factor is colonize. So if if it is a colonized countries, and colonized are the source of mineral resource and crops and other advantage of colonized countries. So colonization is very important, and those countries are much more wealthy than others. The use of European labor in the colonized proved to be unsubstantiable and expensive and harmful to the domestic labor supply of the colonized countries. Instead, the colonized imported African slaves who were supplies in large quantities at a price that would make American farming profitable. And supplies in large quantities at a price that would make American farming profitable. And this is also from the article. And this thing that, so African Americans like they're cheap and they have a large amount, and that's why those people, European allies and Americans, wants to buy those Africans. And those Africans born in a place where are not that developed as European and American. So but it should be the reason for them to become slaves. And I think that's where racism start, because the white people and the European and American think they are more powerful, or they have more rights, and they think that Africans are lower class. And yeah, and in the 1820s and 1830s, American colonized society was founded, and it is to help free blacks people to enjoy greater freedom in Africa. And the article called "The History of Racism in the United States" said, in 1821, the ACS established the colony of labor, assisting thousands of former African American slaves and free black people who legislated limits to move there from the United States. And so American people start realizing that it is not okay to have to have slavers, and there's people think that black people should have their own rights. So that's why the American Colonized Society was founded, but it didn't work well. Yeah, it didn't work well, and slaves and still existing in the society, and there's people who was get hurt, who was dead because of their master. Yeah, and this organization did not help a lot, but that's a good start for people to realize that this kind of action need to stop.